Good morning, everyone. And if you remember, if you looked at yesterday's videos, I went for a long walk yesterday, and it worked. Boy, do I feel better. I woke up at 4:44 a.m. exactly, and I feel great. I'm making cornbread outside. It should be done in about 10 minutes. I'll have some breakfast, and I'll go to work. Take a shower first. That'd be nice. Okay. Now, if you go to the very first video of this thing, I talked about structure and how that affects both screenplays and novels. Structure can be difficult to understand because, as I said, there are 3 acts in most novels and screenplays and films, and there are 8 sequences, 2 in the first act, 4 in the second act, and 2 in the third act. Now, that's kind of complicated to understand. So to make it simpler, and I can't remember if I think I read about this, and I suggest that you take some online courses, by the way, in writing, other than these things. But I started by analyzing films. They're easier, okay? You can watch them and make notes at the same time if you have, sit down at your television and watch a Netflix film of some kind, something that's typically three act. And what I did, where I started, is I analyzed the king's speech. And either I learned this or it dawned on me that what there were at least 3 major plans in something like the king's speech. Now, I'll show it to you later. I actually kept the analysis. But if you remember the king's speech, and I kind of remember it because I watched it God knows how many times, 10, to figure this out. It starts with our king, if I remember right, George the Third, unable to talk, and his parents were pushing him to get rid of his stutter. The first plan was a 0 plan. It didn't work at all, and that was when, remember the guy, one of his physicians, I think it was a physician, big bloated guy, got him to put marbles in his mouth, and it was embarrassing. And he spit him out. And he was so embarrassed and angry. And his wife came to his defense, remember? So that was plan 1. It was plan 0, call it. Okay, plan 0. Didn't work. Then he starts to get into plans that start to work. And remember, the last plan is always the plan usually that does work. In this case, the king learned to talk without any marbles, and because he'd had so many lessons. So, the first plan that starts to work is when he and his wife search for a proper therapist that can help him. And again, I can't remember the character's name, but boy, did I like him. Remember? English gentleman with family? And they researched, and they came up with this guy, and they went for the first interview. And as I remember, Noel, whatever his name was, the therapist, asked the king to start to share some personal information because stuttering is often psychological in nature. There's a problem. The king wouldn't, and at one point walks out. All right? And so that was sort of the end of that plan. And then the screenplay progresses, and remember, the king actually fires the therapist. That was the end of the second plan, or one of the other plans. So now we think that's it. Major conflict. The story's over, but it's not. Now the king's in World War II. He's had to become the king rather than simply second in line to the throne. Remember, his brother, the king, resigned. The father, the real king, passed away. The next in line to the throne decided to marry Mrs. Simpson, took off. All of a sudden, poor George, was next in line to the throne and became king. It's World War II. Now he has to speak. Rehires Lionel. That's the name of the therapist. Rehires Lionel. And Lionel and the king are successful together. So much so that the king actually invites Lionel into his broadcasts. And now Lionel is in many ways part of the family. And if you remember, at the end credits, there's a card, and they remain friends for the rest of their lives. So that's how a plan works. And it's a very simple way of learning. You incorporate that with a 3-act structure. And now you've got the basis for writing. Anything. Pretty much. Even a letter, you think about it. Letters are often in 3 acts. Beginning, a middle, and an end. Okay, another few minutes and my cornbread's going to be done. I'm going to eat something. You take care wherever you are, and good morning to you from Iries, County Cork, Ireland. Bye-bye.